finished. Hi guys! As you can see, I am fully decked out in my Disney stuff today because I am back with another video in regards to the DCP or Disney College Program. If this is the first time you're hearing about it, I will leave a link below of my first video where I basically introduce the program and my experience on the application process for the program. This particular video is going to be for the future applicants of the program. I believe that the January 2016 intake has just opened, so if you're thinking about doing it, go apply now because it's open, and other future applicants obviously. This video is going to be a bit more of a detailed video on the interview and the questions asked. When I was looking for research before my interview, there was hardly anything on the Australia and New Zealand cultural exchange program. There were heaps on the American phone interview. A lot of people have the live phone interview footage or a video about the questions that they asked during the phone interview. But from what I saw, there was hardly any of the Australian New Zealand one. And it is quite different because we have a face-to-face interview. So it's not just a phone interview or a Skype interview and stuff. The recruiters do come from America to Australia and New Zealand and do proper face-to-face interviews. So I thought I would share with you guys kind of my experience through it, as well as the questions that they asked. First of all, when I was kind of prepping for the interview, I was looking at a lot of the American interview videos, and there was like kind of a big thing where they changed the questions from last year to this year. Before it was, why do you want to work for Disney? And now it is, how are you qualified to work for Disney? So when I realized that, I was like, oh, breaking out a little bit, but I prepped with a different set of questions, like which roles am I most qualified for, and like a more corporate kind of proper interview. But when I got there, it was definitely not that way. They were super friendly. It wasn't like, what are your qualifications, blah blah blah. It was very much, why do you want to do this, what roles do you want to do, and it was a very friendly environment, and it was kind of the way I had heard it was like in the past. So in a sense, it kind of took me by surprise. I was prepared for the more kind of harder businessy kind of questions, so I was a little bit nervous because of that. Like, I felt like I prepared for the wrong questions, but I was fine anyway, and I kind of incorporated the answers I already had into the questions. So the setup was that there were two recruiters and they had a room each, and they were just taking a person in one by one. So it was just a one-on-one interview. I had Lindsay and she was absolutely great. Unfortunately, I was the last person who interviewed, so I had seen everyone throughout the day and everyone came out really confident, and they were just like, yeah, killed it, awesome, blah blah blah. So I was just like, oh, okay, should be okay. A lot of interviews went for like 20 to 25 minutes, which is pretty long, and I feel like mine only went for 10 to 15, so I was quite worried maybe they just didn't like me. A lot of the other people were saying that they chatted a lot with the interviewer, whereas I didn't. Like, she was very straight to the point. She just like moved on from question to question, like bang bang bang. But I do think maybe it was just because I was the last person and she was tired, and they had been interviewing for like I think it was like 3 or 4 hours, and they didn't take a break whatsoever, so they were probably tired. But obviously it wasn't a problem because I got in, so it's not like the order matters. But anyway, I am going to go into the questions now and tell you what questions she asked me. I'm sorry, I may not remember 100% of them, but this is probably like 95% of the questions, so hopefully it'll give you an idea of what they were like. I'm going to take off these gloves because they're so hot. Okay. So the first thing she asked was, how is your course going in regards to my uni course? And I told her that I had just recently finished. Like, I graduated literally like a week or two before the interview. So I told her that I graduated, but I love the course, why I loved it, blah blah blah. And I kind of talked into linking my course into the company, because I did communication design, which is basically like graphic design, and I did quite a bit of animation, and it's kind of what I want to do. So I linked that into, you know, working with Disney will be an awesome first step. Then she went straight into job experience. She's like, I want to talk a little bit about your job experience. I have only had one job, so that's all I could talk about, but I told her the reason why I'd stuck with it for so long and the reason why I love it and the experiences that I got through it. Then she moved on to my top roles, so it was really just like, as I said before, I was more prepared for the question, what are you most qualified for, rather than what are your top roles. In the answer I had incorporated like my favourite roles as what I'm most qualified for anyway, so I did start off the answer as, well, I think I'm most qualified for, which I don't know if it was good or bad, but I did say that I think I'm most qualified for merchandise because it is my job, it's what I do. And then through that I kind of linked it into character attendant, saying that because I talk to people all day through customer service and stuff, that I would be capable and like good with character attendant, because that's what you do and you share information with the guests. And then she just asked one situational question. Oh, before I go on to that, when she asked a question and I was answering her, I kind of included an answer to other possible questions that she would ask. So for example, merchandise is your top role, blah blah blah, and then once I talked about my work experience, I also kind of chucked in there, oh, so I've handled cash, like I know how to work a register, blah blah blah, which would have been a question that she would have asked, although since I already answered it, she didn't ask it. So I would say try to answer the question that they ask as well as other possible questions that link off of that question. And then she asked a situational question about character attendant, which was, what would you say if Pooh Bear needed to take a 5-minute break? So I was just like, he needs to get some honey, obviously. And then she also asked if I was comfortable working individually or as a team, because character attendant is one of those roles where at times you are by yourself with a character and you're just working by yourself, or other times that it is like a full team working environment. And I told her I'm fine with both, that I can adapt, and I do that at work anyway, so I was like, all good. Then she went on saying that another one of my high interest roles is attractions, since I didn't mention it before. She went on to ask if I was confident in front of large crowds, and I said yes, but I did tell her that I wasn't always that way. Like I used to be really bad at speaking in front of people, and I told her how I got over it and stuff. And then she asked about safety, that safety is like a #1 priority in Disney, and that if I had to deal with a dangerous situation. I didn't have like a very big example, so I just told her about broken glass and stuff in my workplace and how we dealt with that, and she was happy with that answer. And then she asked if I had ever dealt with a difficult customer or guest. I work in retail. That's like every day, so I was like, oh, yeah, all the time. That was it for basically all the job side, and then she went into kind of more personal questions like, have you ever been to America? Which I said, no, I haven't, but I'm super duper excited. And I told her that I had been to the Disney resort in Japan, and then we were talking a little bit about that. She said her friend works there, and I was like, so does mine, maybe they know each other, oh my goodness. And then she asked if I have lived with other people, and I haven't, but I did tell her an example of when I was in Japan. If you have seen my Japan vlogs, that I was staying with a friend for quite a lot of the time, and I told her about that. She was really glad to hear that at least I had like some sort of example of kind of compromising and living with someone else. Last question she asked was about the Disney look. She asked if I had any body piercings as well as tattoos. I do have 2 tattoos, and they are very specific about it. I told her they're very small. I have one on my wrist and I have one on my ankle, but she was like, how big is it? Is it on the inside or the outside of your ankle? And she was writing it all down. So they are very specific with that. I'm guessing that they just keep a note of it, and then at traditions they probably check if you've covered it up and stuff. And that was it. And then she was like, do you have any questions for me? I asked her what her favourite thing was about working with Disney, and I think I asked her something else, but I can't quite remember. But we did have like a little bit of a chat for a few minutes at the end, which was nice. And that was it. I just said have a safe flight, and I left. So the questions really weren't bad. Like, I do wish I was a little bit more relaxed, just because the atmosphere was way more chilled than I thought. Hopefully this video was somewhat of a help for you if you are applying in the future, which I reckon you should do it. And if you're thinking about it, apply now, because if I get the chance, I'm going to send for a year, and then you could come, and then we could totally hang and be best friends. So, well, I hope this video helped at least for some of you. If it did help, give it a thumbs up, and I will know, and I'll be like, awesome, I helped somebody out. Yeah. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.